Welcome back. This is 4.2, Factoring Polynomials. So we're going to be looking at greatest common factor, factor by grouping, factoring with different leading coefficients, difference of squares, perfect squares, and just a general strategy for factoring. All right, factoring a polynomial containing the sum of monomials means finding an equivalent expression that is a product. So we're doing that the multiplication in reverse. So we're getting it back to the factored form. All right, greatest common factor is an expression with the greatest coefficient and the highest degree that divides each term of the polynomial. So it has to be in every single term in order to be a greatest common factor. Factoring a monomial from a polynomial, so you determine the greatest common factor, express each term as a product of the GCF and its other factor, and then using the distributive property to factor out the GCF. And then factoring by grouping, and we'll go over each of these when we do each example too. So you're going to group the terms, and you take out the GCF of both, find the common factor, and then factor out the remaining common binomial. All right, example 1. So factoring out the greatest common factor. So we're looking at numbers that 21 and 28 have in common. So if you want to list your factors, you can. So we have 1 and 21, 3 and 7. Then we have 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 4 and 7. So we're looking at the highest one that they have in common. So they do have a 1 in common, but they have a 7 in common. So it'd be a 7. And then we're looking at the x's. So we have x and just a single x. So they have just a single x in common. So that's what we're going to divide out of each term. So 21 divided by 7 is 3. X squared, take away an x, we just have that one x left over. Plus 28 divided by 7 is 4. And then we don't have any x's left over. So that would be our answer. So just taking out that GCF from each and then writing what's left over. All right, next, factor by grouping. So that means we group the two terms together. So when it's 4 terms, that's when we do factor by grouping. So the first 2 are grouped together, and then we take out a GCF. And then the second 2 are grouped together, and we take out a GCF to see if we have a common factor. So x to the third, so we have 3 x's, and then we have 4, and then x and x. So they have 2 x's in common, so that's going to be the GCF that we take out. So we have an x and a 4 left over. All right, next one we have 3 and an x, and 12 is 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So we can take out the 3 because they have the 3 in common. And we're left with x and 4. So notice how they have the same factor in common now. So we take the GCF of both and we group that together. And then the second factor is the one that matches. So we're treating the x plus 4 like a GCF. So you're dividing out that x plus 4 from each. And you can write it the x plus 4 first. And then what we have left over is the x squared plus 3. Either way you write it, it's going to be the same. strategies for factoring x squared plus bx plus c. It's weird that it didn't fully type that out, so it's the x squared plus bx plus c. So when you have a 1 in front, so those factors are the sum of your multiples of c. So you're going to list all pairs of factors for constant c, and then you're going to find which ones add to make that middle term b. So you can do it with a box, or so you can do box method or diamond, or even just your guess and check. Either one of those options is perfectly normal and perfectly fine. So we want factors of 8 that add or subtract to equal 6. So 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. So we look, 1 plus 8 is going to give us 9, so that doesn't work. And then 2 plus 4 is 6. So that one works. So remember in this one, so this is going to be 8 and 6. So this would be 2 and 4. And then here, it's x squared and 8. And then the 2x and 4x. So just know that that x squared is x and x. So that gets broken up into the two factors. And then you want to factor out what those have in common. Or you just know that those are going to be your numbers that go in your factors. So x plus 4 times x plus 2 is going to equal x squared plus 6x plus 8. So there's multiple ways of doing it. I usually do the box method because that's what we've been doing in Math 2 and 3 for the past couple years, so we like that box method. I know some use the guess and check plus the diamond, guess and check plus the box. It's up to you. Whichever one is easier for you. You can also do your factor tree down as well. It's up to you. All right, when A is not 1, it's a little bit different. So when you have a number in front, so when it's the ax squared plus bx plus c, you have to find out what is a times c, and that will add to make your b. So add or subtract to make the b value. All right, so let's look at some. And then sometimes when you have an a value in front, you want to see if you have a GCF or not, but that's up to you to look at and see. I don't know why that opened. All right, a times c. So 3 times 28 is going to give you 84. And then if you didn't know that that was 84, you can do that in your calculator. Oh, 28. And you get 84. So we want factors of 84. And like you can do the tree or the chart method. It's up to you. So you have 1 and 84. We're looking for 20. So 2 and 42. 3 and 28. We just did that one. And then 4 and 21. 5 doesn't work. and then 6 and 14. And then 7 and 12. And then 8 and that one, it actually doesn't work. So those are your factors. So if you don't know your factors, I had to check just to make sure. You can start, so 84 divided by 2, 84 divided by 3, 84 divided by 4, 84 divided by 5, 6. See how 5 didn't work? It was a decimal. 84 divided by 7, 84 divided by 8, and 9. And see, that doesn't work. And then 84 divided by 10 won't work as well. So you'd stop at the 7 and 12. All right, looking at ones to get negative 20. So that means both are negative, because negative times a negative makes a positive. So looking down our list, those would be too big. That one makes 25. Oh, but this one makes 20. So if you do your box, so you have 3x squared, 28. So you have negative 6x and negative 14. I like to do the box because you can tell which one you're going to have your number with. So this one, they only have an x in common because they don't have any numbers. 6 and 28 only have 2 in common. And then 3x squared and 6x have a 3x in common. And then negative 14 and 28 have a negative 14 in common. Then you can do your multiplication. So negative 14 times negative 2 equals the positive 28. And then x times 3x, 3x squared, and the same for all around. So it'd be 3x minus 14 and x minus 2. You can do grouping or however you like to do those ones, but the box keeps it nice and tidy, and you can factor out your GCFs. All right, next will be the difference of two squares. All right, the difference of two squares. So when we're factoring, you're going to find your a and b, and then your answers are going to be a plus b, a minus b. So for this one, when you have your factors, you're going to square root it. So square root, and this will be your a and your b. So square root of x squared is x. Square root of 4 is 2. You ignore the negative as well here. So it'd be x plus 2, x minus 2. All right, same for this one. Our a and our b. So a, square root of 81 is 9. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 49 is 7. So it will be 9x plus 7 and 9x minus 7. So you just find your a and b, square root it, and find your factors. All right, repeated factorization. So this will be the same, square root to find a and b. So it's going to be x squared minus 9 and x squared minus 9. Well, notice you could also square root that again. So, plus 9. So only when it's the subtract. So square root, So A and your B. So it will be x minus 3, x plus 3, and then the x squared plus 9. The reason why we can't do that x squared plus 9 is that if we tried to solve it, so it'd be x squared equals -9, and we square rooted it, it would become an I answer. It would be plus or minus 3i, which is your imaginary numbers. So we don't want imaginary numbers, we only want whole numbers. So we leave it as the plus. So when it's the difference, when it has that negative, then you can do the square rooting and do the difference of squares. Otherwise, you just leave it and leave it as its factor. All right, perfect square trinomials. So to find your a and your b, you're going to square root, and then it's either going to be a plus b squared or a minus b squared. It depends on your sign in the middle of your equation. So looking at our equations, so for this one, so we square root. So this will be your a and your b. So a is going to be x, and b will be 3. And then the sign in the middle is a plus. So it'd be x plus 3 and a squared. And you could normal factor these, like you could do your box and your t-chart. So 9, add, subtract to 6. So 1 and 9, 3 and 3. See how 3 plus 3 would make 6. So it's just the same. It's that same as x plus 3, x plus 3. Okay? But it's easier just to do the square root and find your a and your b. So square root of 25 is 5 and x, and b will be 6. Sign in the middle is negative, so it'd be 5x minus 6 squared. So those are nice. So they're super simple. You don't have to do any other extra steps for your factoring. All right, and then here's just some strategies for you for factoring. So if you want to pause and read through those, you can. It just goes through kind of those steps, gives you those formulas, and tells you to find the GCF always first. All right, so let's do one of those where you have to take out a GCF. So notice they have a 7 in common, so that goes out front. And then they also have an x. So this has 5 x's and 1 x, so they only have 1 x in common. So it'd be x to the 4th left over. And whenever you take out fully something, so if we divided out that 7x, we would have a 1 left over. And then notice it's that to the 4th power, so we need to square root it. So 7x, and it has that minus in the middle. So a is going to be x squared, b is going to be 1. So x squared minus 1, x squared plus 1. So that's another one where we have to square root it. So it'd be 7x, and b is 1. So it'd be 7x, x plus 1, x minus 1, and then x squared plus 1. Remember that has a plus in the middle, so no square roots. So that would be your answer. All right, then the next one, or the last one. So go ahead and try factoring. It's 4, so remember it's going to be grouping. So go ahead and try that one, pause it, and then come back to see if you get the answer. Alright, you should have gotten x plus 2, x minus 2, and x minus 5. Notice that x squared minus 4, you can square root both of those, and it has that negative in the middle. So that's that difference of squares. So the a plus b, a minus b. Okay, so always check for that if you can. If you can square root the first and the second term and it has a negative in the middle, then you will be square rooting those for that difference of squares. Otherwise, you just leave it like the x minus 5, you just leave it alone. Alright, that is it for our notes. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, work on your assignment.